Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, let's talk about the latest situation around Bethune-Cookman College down in Florida, how there's new developments as students have been planning a walkout due to unsafe and inhumane dorm conditions, along with the fact that when Mr. Ed Reed, who was considered to be a contender for the head coaching job down there, has made some new statements. We're going to play for you what he said to his team and his exclusive interview with our very own Brother Roland Martin. So we'll have that conversation, and of course, we'll keep that open for you to chime in as well. Also, folks, let's talk about, we're going to be checking in with my brother Michael Imhotep. We're going to talk about the power of words. We'll have that conversation. And what does it mean when the reparations conversation is included in that fight against history that Governor DeSantis down in Florida is having to stop certain AP African-American classes from being taught? We're going to check in with Brother Michael to give us the latest and how we can help to overcome this situation. A lot to get to. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we're going to do our due diligence here at the Black Star Network and, of course, The Culture as we're continuing the conversation and the coverage about this latest situation down in Bethune-Cookman College. Now, yesterday on the show, I talked to Dr. Jason Nichols and my brother Scotty from Offscript TV to share with them, to get their thoughts on what's happening as students are now protesting the conditions of the dorm rooms down there at Bethune-Cookman College, saying that these dorm rooms are unsafe, unhealthy, inhumane. The dorm rooms included pictures of, the students posted pictures of mold everywhere from beds to walls to just unsafe conditions. Along with that, they've also said that the AC doesn't work. They also said that they are not getting hot water in the dorm room buildings as well. Now, this is going to come in on the heels of Ed Reed, who had made, and this is the NFL Hall of Famer who played with the Baltimore Ravens. He had made a very, very explicit-laden video rant just last week about the conditions as he was being considered to be the new head coach for Bethune-Cookman College football program. However, as a result of his social media post, his rant, that contract was rescinded. And as a result of that, it led him to have more conversation. First and foremost, I want to share with you what he said to the team in a recent meeting that he had with the team officials. And then we're going to play just a little bit of the exclusive interview that Ed Reed had with our very own brother Roland Martin on Roland Martin Unfiltered. So here's the first conversation that Mr. Reed had with the team.
After playing and what we started doing, young man. Motherfuckers. Yeah, I curse. And y'all done heard curse words before. And they got parents in here. And no, I don't want to leave. And like I told you, I want all these recruits. But they got some corrupt people in this world, some evil people that don't care about kids like I do. So I want y'all to hear the truth from me. I ain't withdrawing my name. I got the receipts. They got all kinds of stuff going on around here, hoarding these buildings with nothing but trash in them. You understand me? And Dion was right. And I know I'm right. And they got some people in here who be snitching to their ass. And I work amongst Judas as Jesus walked with him. And I ain't have a problem with it. Because even Jesus prevailed. Sir. And what God got for you, no man can take. Sir.
That was Ed Reed giving his impassioned speech as to where he was standing or his stance on this whole situation. And folks, in a few moments, I'll certainly give us an opportunity to give you a chance as my online culture crew to join us in the conversation, to look at this story of Bethune-Cookman College, the problems that exist there, the systemic issues that are facing Black students, and more importantly, the bigger conversation that both Ed Reed and Deion Sanders has pointed to, which is what should be done with the HBCUs. Now, we already know, and my man Scotty said it yesterday, that we already know that HBCUs are underfunded educational institutions. We already know that. However, what more can be done? Because there is some things that can be done outside of waiting for state money or federal money. And that is the big question that we want to kind of put at the forefront as we look at these videos, have this conversation, is that there are some things that can be done. Because one of the great concerns, and I shared this on the show yesterday, folks, one of the great concerns, especially for a lot of these HBCUs that are in the southern portion of the United States, these HBCUs who are in Republican-controlled states, that they may be on the verge of getting shut down if other reports of other issues come up with other HBCUs, not just in Florida, but you got HBCUs in Alabama, Mississippi, and other states. What will happen? Is this type of treatment of Black students, will the conditions of HBCUs open up the door for where we might see some of our most beloved educational institutions to be shut down by state and local, by state and federal officials? We're going to have that. So I want us to put that at the forefront of the conversation. But let's look. I want you to hear the exclusive interview that our big brother Roland Martin had with Ed Reed yesterday, as he talked about the situation down in Bethune-Cookman College, and of course the fact that there are a number of students that are protesting. And folks, let me just say this: as we look at this situation, first I want to invite you to join us in a conversation. So make sure you post your comments in our chat. So we're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook and Black Star Network. But I want us to consider that the other part of this is beyond Ed Reed and his celebrity, his fame. The real part of this is for the students. What will happen to the students? Because as Scotty said yesterday, and I agree with him 100%, Ed Reed can go on, move on. His celebrity, his fame will continue to move with him. But the folks that really will be impacted by all of this are Black students who have a hope, who have had, who have been inspired. There were, very quickly, I remember reading some data, some information, that there has been a rise in the enrollment of Black students in HBCUs when George Floyd was killed. That after that major succession of demonstrations in the summer of 2020, that HBCUs started to get a huge number of new Black students that probably never considered to be in the HBCUs, to go to an HBCU, have decided to enroll. Now, if you're bringing that influx of students in and you're bringing them into a circumstance or into a situation where they are feeling like they're going to be mistreated, their needs are being neglected, then what are we essentially saying to those students? What are we saying to those parents and to those communities where these students come from? What are we saying? And is it time for us to really start to uncover some of the things that we like to sweep under the rug? And I know there has been this large blanket that's been placed over things like such as the sensitivity of the condition of HBCUs, what's really going on behind the HBCU pride, what's going on behind the marching bands and the football programs, what's going on behind the Blackness of HBCUs. And when you start to look beyond that curtain, and it becomes exposed that there is some very, very serious problem with the management, with the sustenance and the upkeep of HBCUs, from leadership to facility issues, from staffing and personnel issues. It all leads to low student morale, low funding, low alumni involvement. And essentially, it leads to us having a very bad taste about our institutions that were designed to cultivate us, designed to take us to the next level. So I want us to keep those points in mind as we have this conversation. Look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want to share with you a little bit of what Ed Reed said to our big brother, Roland Martin, yesterday on Roland Martin Unfiltered, and then let's have a conversation. So folks, stay with us. A lot to get to as we continue our coverage and our discussion about HBCUs, starting with Bethune-Cookman College and other HBCUs. Stay tuned. That's happening here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We're going to have an extensive and I think a very necessary conversation about the state of HBCUs in light of what we have been seeing, the reports that we've gotten and the pictures that we've been seeing about the situation and the condition of facilities at Bethune-Cookman College. Also in light of what Ed Reed has been putting out. This is the NFL Hall of Famer who had been offered the job as head coach for Bethune-Cookman College, but as a result of seeing, you know, where he fits in the larger scheme of things, and seeing that he is just been brought into a situation that is way out of control, he has gone public to express his disdain with how the Bethune-Cookman College has handled the facilities, and more importantly, how they have mishandled students and their needs. So he has been very, very public about this whole situation, even beyond the head coaching job. So I want to play for you a little bit of what Ed Reed had to say to Big Brother Roland Martin. And then also we're going to certainly get your comments as well, folks. So let's play the interview, the exclusive conversation that happened yesterday here on Black Star Network with Ed Reed and Roland Martin. Check this out.
Glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You got a chance to hear what the president had to say on this show. Your response?
I mean, I honestly, I was honestly at the spa, Roland. And when I turned my phone on, that's when I received your text. I didn't hear everything the president had to say. And he's an interim president. I don't feel like he probably would be the person even that would be here. There's a term that is used, you know, when coaches get fired rather than firing head coaches. I've been around this a good bit, man. I'm a businessman, and he's probably just a scapegoat to things, man. And, you know, I just woke up to this, man. I honestly, just the first time that I was able to relax. I've been in Daytona for 3 straight weeks recruiting kids. I have 3 kids, Dominique Ponder, Jeremy Greaves, and Jordan Johnson, who are they in school, man. They already in school because they believed in me. Their parents believed in me, man. There's 30 kids that was here on Friday I was with when I got the phone call that they did not want me here. You understand? And I still gave $2,400 out of my own pocket for these young men to go host these kids. And I didn't tell the parents until Saturday morning when Reggie Theus sent a letter to my assistant who was not hired at the time because none of my people were hired, and saying that tell Ed to withdraw his name. He wanted me to say this. I have the email. You want me to say that I'm withdrawing my name so you can save yourselves. I'm not here for nothing but these kids. I apologize for the unprofessionalism. This is what I've been teaching these young men. What these young men and young women did today is for them, man. That's powerful, man. That's old school things, man. I'm not here to bash this university. I know what Dr. McLeod has built. I've been researching it since they called me. In 1904, when she started this university with 5 young kids, it was built on education. I wasn't here to bash this university. I saw all the things that were going on. I have the tapes. My people and I have been shooting the documentary for the longest. I'm not here to bash Bethune-Cookman. I was still trying to get back to the job today. I'm foundation. I've been running for 20 years, man. 20 years to work with kids. I built the park in my own neighborhood. You understand? Because kids are dying. This ain't right. This ain't right, man. For Mr. Lawrence Drake, Dr. Drake, to come on and talk about me in that way. I knew this was a Christian school. I knew that. I'm a Christian man. I know I played music, but do you see? He said he walked campus every day, right? I don't believe that. Because if you walk campus every day, you'll see what these young folk wear to school, man. You will see this. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? They worse than the songs. You have crackheads walking through campus, man. There's no security for these young women and men. I'm not trying to bash the school. We were picking up trash when I was screen recorded. I didn't post that. Somebody screen recorded me and put that out there because they said I was mutting the school. I'm not mutting the school. We're picking up trash. At the time, you telling me I'm mutting the school. I'm on the ground grabbing trash from under trees behind bushes because my football team was acting too cute. Don't interview me. Interview them kids. Interview the team. Interview these young women and men. I'm not here for, man, I got a 14-year-old son who I've been missing his stuff for 3 weeks. I'm tired, man. This is exhausting, man. They lying on me, man. Why lie on me, man, to save your face, man? Because you're doing something wrong. You understand me? I took families to a basketball game, and this man, Reggie Theus, man, this man is evil, man. You're evil, man. This man is evil, dude. I take parents to a basketball game, you understand me? And he don't come out during the warm-up at all. The parents are like, where's the coach? Then when you do come out, man, you got another man fixing your pants? Man. Bro, I'm not rolling. I'm not with these people portraying me to be. And the people who know me know I'm not like that, man. Yeah, I speak with passion. Have you ever seen my speech from Florida State game when we were winning? And I gave that speech. I respect everything Dr. McLeod built this thing on. I showed the team the video. You understand me? I showed the team the video after I saw it on Martin Luther King's birthday before the day when everybody celebrate him. I cry for them kids, man. I hurt for them kids because it's wrong. I got eight kids that committed the week before. These kids calling me, their parents calling me. What we gonna do? I can't get these kids in no school. I can't have these kids uncommitted and go somewhere else. And you telling me I'm withdrawing? No, I'm not withdrawing. I still want to coach here and coach these kids after all this going on. And I'm wrong, Roland? Come on, man. Come on, man. And y'all know what's right. Roland, you know what's right. You know that man on here lying. His scapegoat. This man an interim president. I've been doing this, man. I just left University of Miami where I was the chief of staff, making a lot more with less responsibilities. I got a 6-figure job on internet working for the 33rd. I didn't need this. I'm financially stable, and I was teaching them young men how to be gentlemen, you understand? I'm putting a napkin on their lap in front of their parents. The night they call me, interview these parents.
We're talking.
That was Ed Reed, NFL Hall of Famer. He was one of the choice. He was the choice for Bethune-Cookman football program. Y'all know how I feel about passion because I understand. But I want to do this because I want to make sure that you, as my online culture crew, y'all get an opportunity to chime in because we got to have the conversation. We got to have the conversation, folks. And I think that what we saw from Ed Reed last night, not going into the particulars of who said what and all of these things, but the fact remains, folks. And I'm just looking at the baseline facts, the conditions at Bethune-Cookman College should not exist. And students, black students, should not be subjected to those conditions. That's what I'm looking at. I don't know what Ed said, the back and forth between the president and Ed Reed and all of that. We don't know. We weren't there. But one thing is for certain. Mold is in the building. HVAC system hanging from the ceiling. One thing is for certain. Students feel neglected. One thing is for certain. Trash is on the grounds of one of the most prestigious HBCUs in the HBCU network. These are all facts. One thing is for certain. Somebody or somebodies dropped the ball. And one thing is for certain. Black students do not feel valued and loved and appreciated by their own people, especially by Black adults. That's all for certain. That's not hearsay. That's not, hey, what's going on? No, that's facts. So when you keep that in mind, and when we keep that in mind, and then listen to what Ed is saying, we got to come down to what are the facts of this situation and why this is a major problem. Why this is a major problem. Look, I got to take another pause. When we come forward, we're going to get into it. I want to hear from you. I got so many of your comments that I'm going to get to, so we're going to try to get through them as many as possible because I know many of you are just as upset and frustrated. Ming Lee, Brother Damon, Real Brooklyn, Lana, I see you all. I know that many of you are just upset just as much as I am. And Ming Lee, you said it. After seeing all of this go down and after seeing that interview, why will anybody want to send their child to an HBCU? And you know what, Ming Lee, very quickly, we might just have to take a hit in order to make a point so that way we can get ourselves better and back on track and come back better than we were. We might just have to take this hit to let this thing air out, to expose it for what it is so we can get it back on track. Look, we got to take another pause when we come forward. That conversation with you is up next. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We have been talking about the state of HBCUs in light of what we're seeing coming out of Bethune-Cookman College with the Ed Reed controversy, and now with the students who are coming out, speaking up and exposing the conditions there at Bethune-Cookman College, where they have moved forward and having a walkout yesterday. And as a result of that, this whole situation about the state of HBCUs is once again at the forefront of controversy. Folks, we played for you just a little bit of what Ed Reed said to our very own Roland Martin yesterday in that exclusive conversation, and I will share that that conversation you can see in its full entirety right on Black Star Network, so make sure you check it out. But one thing is for certain, folks, Ed Reed is very passionate about what has taken place over these past few days that has caused him to his name for not to be considered for the head coaching position for the Bethune-Cookman football program. But there are bigger issues at play here, bigger issues of neglect, bigger issues of not taking care of the facility, bigger issues of leadership. So I wanted to take a few minutes to get your take on this as we look at this conversation. And folks, again, this is an ongoing discussion. We will certainly kind of go back to it. We don't have enough time to cover all of the particulars at this moment, but I do want to make sure that I get your thought. You're my culture crew, to get your take on it. And so many of you have already checked in, and I'm truly, truly thankful and grateful to each and every one of you. Let's kick it off with Truth is Power. Truth is Power, my guy, you said, if you remember 3 years ago, we had to deal with almost the same exact thing at Howard. It's amazing. At our colleges that these are happening now that the Ivy League, I guess now that the Ivy Leagues have started to accept us, and I'm assuming that's what you wanted to say, Truth is Power. And that's what I brought up yesterday. We saw this condition at Howard University. I remember being on RMU and having the conversation with Brother Roland and others, with the panel, Dr. Carr, Reese, and everybody, about what's going on with the situation at Howard, where students were protesting unsafe, unhealthy conditions in the Howard dorm system. And I remember Brother Roland going in on the president of Howard, saying, well, why aren't you listening to the students? Why don't you take full responsibility, take some level of accountability for the situation? So Truth is Power, to your point, you're absolutely right. It's not that long ago. And now we're back to the same situation. And I'm starting to, and I know HBCU is part of the for a part of our hearts, right? You know, we want to see our institutions make the type of progress and gains it needs to make. And this is not just about being underfunded. We all know that. But what do you do? And Scotty brought this question up yesterday. He said, well, what do you do with the money that you do get? We keep talking about money that we're not getting. What do you do with the money that you do get? Where does that money go to? That's the question. Great point, Truth is Power. Thank you. Ming Lee, my sister, you brought it up. Why would a black parent want their kid to go to an HBCU after seeing this? Ming Lee, I'm trying to figure that out. If you have the opportunity, and this is, I think we're going to see the consequences of this situation, you know, maybe not this year, but it's going to hurt. It's going to take that hit. And I said it before the break. We may just need to take that hit. You know what I mean? Clean house, and then put the HBCU system, particularly like Bethune-Cookman and other schools that are troubled and have these very systemic problems, put them in a better position. You just got to take the hit. You can't keep going on like this, right? For the sake of enrollment, for the sake of keep getting money and all of this. No. We need to fix the problem. Take the hit and then say, look, we fixed the problem. We'll come back and we want y'all to come back to us. We apologize. We're sorry about how this is carried on. We apologize to the students, to their families, to the community. But we want you to know that the problem has been addressed. And we're serious about it, and we want to gain your trust back. Come back home. But you're absolutely right. And can you get mad if a black parent doesn't decide to send their black child to an HBCU considering this? I'm not mad at all. Great point. Ming Lee, thank you so much. Conscious Thought, you checked in and said, one must fully appreciate Ed Reed's passion, but sadly, he was going up against something that is both structured and foundational. Governance, education. And most importantly, politics and education. Yeah, that's all good. That's all good. But you know what, though? And I'm glad you brought this point up, Conscious Thought. The fact is, we need that level of passion to get the ball rolling. Now, you just heard him himself. He didn't mean to go on, you know, to have that social media post go out the way it did. But guess what? Apparently, the divine wanted it to happen. And it did. And it got the ball rolling. It got us talking. It's got us looking and inquiring about what's going on. So I'm not necessarily mad that his passion came out. And I get it. People always say, well, you know, he's so passionate and everything, and it kind of takes away from the message. Like, let me just tell y'all something, man. Let me tell y'all something about passion. We live in a world where everybody wants you to be so calm about the sickest things. You can't be calm. I can't be calm about racism and injustice. I can't be calm. Oh, no, man, this stuff is going at the very root of our own humanity and sanity. So how can we stay calm? How can we be like, well, we're going to, no. Sometimes that passion is necessary. Sometimes you need the fire to move somebody's ass to do something, to change their condition, right? So I'm not mad about passion because I love passion. I embrace my passion. I can be passionate. But the whole idea, well, let's stay calm, let's stay professional. That's what got us in the situation as it is. We want to stay calm and professional. We don't want nobody to rock the boat. We don't want nobody to add no confrontation to the situation. No. Sometimes you just put a joker on blast. Boom. Just blow them out the water. And that's all right. And that's all right. We're talking about an institution that is supposed to house and supposed to cultivate and supposed to develop the growth of our children, of the next generation. Why would you want to stay calm about that? We're talking about leadership that has dropped the ball and has become inefficient and ineffective. Why should we want to stay calm about that? We're talking about black people mistreating other black people. Why should we stay calm about that? No, we shouldn't. So I love the passion because that at least tells me that you are alive to be so upset that it just brings you to tears. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I understand. Because after you've been so many years on this planet, you're just tired of seeing human beings treat other human beings like crap. And it's nothing like, and I mean, it's nothing worse to see black people, man, we crapping on black children. These are, I mean, essentially, these are young people and children. You know, when you go into college, you 18, 19, you still trying to find your way in the world, and you got black adults standing in front of you talking all this blackness, talking all this stuff, and talking about you should be proud and you should be happy, and you are standing on the shoulders of somebody else, and then you walk into your dorm room, stuff falling from the ceiling. You got rats and roaches. You got mold on your sheets. What? But I'm proud to be black. I'm proud to be at a black institution. If this is what proud looks like, man, please make me feel terrible. You say, well, you go to PWIs, they go through the same thing. Yeah, I mean, I get that. I get that. But let me tell you why we need to stop this standard of if white people do it. No, man, we should set a new standard for ourselves, our culture. Our standards should be elevated, especially when it comes to each other. Just because white people have done it or continue to do it doesn't mean that it's okay. Where's our new standard on how we treat each other? Let's go. Lana, you checked in and said expose, expose, expose. But I need the family to understand it ain't the school, it's a funding issue. Let's be smart, family. It's bigger than football. Oh, yeah, it's most definitely bigger than football, Lana. Oh, no, it's definitely bigger than football. Absolutely. But we need to expose it because some of us may not have known how serious the situation is. If you've gone to an HBCU, your HBCU may not be deficient, excuse me, in that area, but there's another area of deficiency with it, right? We know that. But every HBCU, every PWI, every school is not going to always hit all of the metrics. We understand that no institution, no company, no organization hits all the metrics. But when it comes to fundamental things about housing, it's one thing to say, okay, we need some new books. But when you're talking about housing, when you're talking about a very serious health condition of mold, black mold, that's fundamental. Especially if you're talking about students paying for dorms on campus and then they're paying for trash. That's fundamental. So yeah, we got exposed. Lana, my sister, thank you as always. I appreciate you. Janelle checked in and you said, I don't have much patience for those saying don't air the dirty laundry on social media and it's such a bad look for HBCUs. The silence is the reason the trustees are running roughshod. Facts. Facts. And here's the thing about us. We don't have to be connected to the HBCU to bring the fire to any trustee, to any board member, to any any school official, any personnel. When people say, well, did you go there? It don't matter if I went there. If I'm black and it's an HBCU, I'm a stakeholder. That's all it is. If I want to see and they don't have to be my children, but if I want to see my neighbor's children, my community members' children, my church's children, if I want to see them in a great educational institution, then I'm a stakeholder. I could say and I could speak on it because guess what? I want to see it better, especially if it's claiming to be an historic black college or university. I want everything that has the name black in it to represent excellence. And that's how we should roll. I don't care if I'm a board member. I don't care if I'm an alumni. I don't care if I'm don't put no money into it. My concern is that if you say that you are for black people, you serve black people, then damn it, be excellent for black people. That's it. You damn right. I should be a stakeholder. I should have something to say on that because that's how community works. That's how the community works. All right. Jane, appreciate you. Marcus, you checked in and said, one thing that we must remember is that an HBCUs receive more attention and spotlight. The not so pretty parts are also going to come to light. The attention is a gift and a curse. Well, look, man. Look, we can act like, and I see your point, Brother Marcus, but we can act as if, let me just say it this way. these officials, leadership, they have had more than enough time to address this situation. More than enough time. So don't act like when now that it comes to light, that it's going to endanger, it's going to be a threat to the sustainability of that institution. You had the time. Why didn't you fix it in time? See, if you keep doing madness in the dark, eventually it's going to come to light, right? That's what we teach ourselves. That's what we teach our children. So that means that if you're doing this year after year and you notice that you ain't getting a lot of play on it, but that's grace. That's mercy for you to fix it. Because you know the time is going to come when it's going to be exposed. But if you in your arrogance, if you in your obnoxiousness, if you in your high, elevated place, you start to think, well, nobody gonna know, nobody gonna know, nobody gonna know. Then you bring a Hall of Famer to your campus. A Hall of Famer you bring to your campus after another Hall of Famer left another black HBCU. What do you think that's going to do? The least you could have done is tell your grounds people, pick up the trash before the man comes. Let's go back. Willie Frazier, you said, as Malcolm X once said, if it affects one of us, it affects all of us. And I'm going to end on that note. Willie, that is the best way to end this. If it affects one, it affects all. That's the community that we all should be living in. We hold each other accountable. I'm not looking for the federal government or the state government to hold me accountable about how I should treat my people or how I should treat the future of my people. If it affects one, it affects all. That's community. That's nation. That's us being united, not just in physical sense, but in mental, moral, and in an ethical sense. That's what will keep the bond together. If we want to be better, then we should want better for all of us. That's the place that we should be in. I so appreciate you, Brother Willie, for bringing that point up, for raising that great thought from our brother Malcolm X. Look, we will certainly do our part here on the culture and, of course, on Black Star Network to keep our eyes on this situation. But it's not over. The conversation really isn't over. It's just getting started. And so we have to make sure that we keep this thing in the forefront of our mind. I'm going to keep you informed as God willing. We're going to keep you informed as much as we can. And most importantly, let us have a different conversation to change the state of our HBCUs. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about what's going on in Florida. We got Brother Michael Imhotep, and we're going to have that discussion as well. Stay with us. It's The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Table. With me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Farajii Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy,
focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Folks, welcome back to the Culture here on the Black Star Network. Folks, I want to say before we move on to our next conversation that we got so many people that have been just hitting us up and being a part of the conversation here as we look at the state of HBCUs, and most importantly, how do we improve things for our higher learning institutions? And I am one to add the fire, folks. I am one to make sure that folks understand the importance of agitation, right? I am one to make sure that we don't lose the necessary passion and the spirit of what we're doing and what this situation is all about. And more importantly, folks, that we don't lose sight of how serious of a breach of trust this really is. Excuse me. That there's a huge breach of trust here. Now, I never went to Bethune-Cookman, but I support HBCUs. I worked for one. My family has graduated from HBCUs. And the thing is, it's not just about the dorm conditions. It's not just about Ed Reed, folks. It's really not about that. The bigger thing is trust. Living in this country, it's hard for Black folks to trust because of what? We have been lied to. We have been taken advantage of, and we have been told so many promises that were left unfulfilled. So the real breach of this violation, the real crux of this to me is trust. We trusted that those who work at Bethune-Cookman and other HBCUs that have not met the standard that we deserve, they have violated the trust. Here on Black Star Network, here on The Culture, Roland Martin Unfiltered, and other shows, and Dr. Carr's The Black Table, we talk to Black college professors. We talk to personnel from HBCUs all the time. And they come on these shows, and I'm not saying that any one of them is involved in any malfeasance. I'm just making this point. They come on this platform, and they talk about the greatness of the program. They talk about the connectivity to our history. They talk about the tradition. They talk about what this does for educating students and their Blackness, cultivating their Blackness. And when you walk away from those conversations, especially from like Dr. Carr's discussion around Black on the Black Table and what he brings, we got Dr. Gerald Horn. I mean, there's a level of trust. We feel very much like these are the men and women that we should trust. And that's the biggest part for me around this whole Bethune-Cookman situation. The trust is gone. How do you rebuild the trust? It's like being in a relationship, right? And then your partner does something to violate the trust, right? And it only takes a moment to violate the trust, but it seems like it takes a lifetime to rebuild it, to get back to that place. That's the hard part. That's the hard part of this whole dilemma. Let me share with Smooth Approach. You posted, you said, how can one sleep at night knowing they putting our future in danger? In harmful danger, Smooth Approach. Harmful danger. I'm talking about like mold and unsafe, unhealthy conditions, unsanitary conditions that can really damage a child damage the lungs, damage the mind, the body, the physical body of a student. How you sleeping at night? How you walking through that? Ed talked about the president saying he walks the campus. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. You must be walking around some parts of the campus and not walking through the dorm rooms. And have you noticed that in these situations, it's those dorm buildings, those dorm rooms that have these places are so old. Great point, smooth approach. Marcus, you said, believe me, I know the HBCU struggle, and I'm 100% in favor of administrators across the board getting our HBCU-ish together, period. This stuff won't come out if it's handled when it should be. Absolutely. Not just when it's handled when it should be, but it's handled properly. That's the difference, Brother Marcus. Not just when it handled should be, but when it's handled properly. I mean, not just it's like, I remember living in a place one time, y'all, and the wall had some serious water damage that when it rained, you can see the wall, really damaged, and you can hear the water coming down into the wall. Told the landlord, and he sent out his maintenance man, and guess what the maintenance man did? Paint over the damage, the cosmetic, the part you can see, just paint over the wall. I said, well, man, you didn't really fix the wall, though. You didn't fix the situation. I mean, could be a real situation. He said, well, we got to do what we got to do. And that's what this is like. You got some real fundamental underlying damage done, but you're just painting over it. You're just painting over it. And that's the problem. You can't paint over this. You can't just say, oh, well, let's put up some glittery stuff here so that way we can divert the attention from the trashy stuff there. You can't do it. Good point, Marcus. Thank you. Sandy, my sister, you said this whole situation is so unfortunate. It has taught the hardworking student that their views and welfare can be compromised because the elders' ego. That's facts. That's facts. And that's a problem in our culture. And y'all know it's a problem in the community that some of the adults in the community are so hateful of the young people that are coming up behind them. They might be jealous, but because of new opportunities that wasn't afforded to them, or they just might be jealous of the talents that these young people have, or, they just have this very distorted, messed up view of the next generation. They don't care. They just do the job for the money. It's not a calling for them. Now, we can't determine that by just looking at a person. What we can only determine that is by their actions. And I'm going to just say this, that based on the conditions of this dorm and the plight of the students, your actions is showing you. Y'all got a problem inside with yourself. Because there's no way in the world you can be saying, I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm an uncle or aunt, I'm a grandmother, I'm a grandfather, and you allow children, young people, to suffer the way they suffer at an institution that's supposed to be compassionate. All right, so let me do this. Let me bring in my brother. Well, let me do this. Let's take a quick pause. When we come forward, let me bring my brother Michael Imhotep on. I want to get his take on this, and then we're going to talk about some other stuff. Let's keep the conversation going, folks. Let's keep the conversation going. Stay with me. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Let me just bring my brother in, who serves as the host of the African History Network podcast show. You see him on RMU, and now he's also serves as one of our contributors here on The Culture. Always happy to have my brother joining in and being a part of the conversation. Brother Michael Imhotep. Brother Michael, first and foremost, peace and blessings, brother. How you feeling this afternoon? Oh, you got you on mute, Brother Michael. No, we're going to fix that. We got to make sure I know my man Keenan going to take care of that. All right, we're going to get you right back in. Right back in. And we're going to get your thoughts on this very quickly. Let me just go back to my culture crew, man, because so many of y'all, and I know so many of y'all have been, y'all been following this story like we've been following this story here. And even more importantly, some of you are actually graduates, alumni of HBCUs. And I'm just so happy that we can have a conversation like this. Look, I know this is, we're streaming live, of course, on Amazon. But this is the type of conversation that Black media needs to have, which is why I'm so grateful and that we can have a space on our own in this way to have the conversation. I'm grateful. Y'all don't know, like, we could go through our ups and downs with Black media, and some of you, and if you've been in Black media, if you follow Black media, you understand the trials and tribulations, the joys and pains of this process. But at the end of the day, when moments like this comes up, this is why it's important to have Black-owned media to tell our story, to be able to not just state our case, but to express ourselves. And it's okay. It is okay. People say, well, it's okay. This is the space that we have.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
There we go. We got my brother back.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
There we go. All right, Brother Michael, peace and blessings. How you feeling this afternoon?
All right.
Bro?
I'm all right, Farajii. It's a busy day. How you doing?
It is a busy day. Hey, look, Brother Michael, I wanted to get your take on this. Of course, you work in the college space. Of course, you understand what was happening here. What's your take on all of this relating to the state of HBCUs, Brother Michael, where we're seeing not just the Ed Reed controversy and what he put out, but what the students are saying about the conditions? A lot of people are concerned that this, and this is my concern, that this may lead to some HBCUs being under greater scrutiny. Right. They may get less funding and possibly being shut. The doors will be shuttered as a result of situations like this.
Okay, well, I saw the interview that our friend Roland Martin did with Ed Reed. And when it comes to HBCUs in general, and this is not an attack on HBCUs, they generally speaking, yes, they need more funding from the federal government because there has been underfunding from federal as well as state government as well, like the lawsuit in Maryland. I think it was 4 HBCUs suing the Maryland state government. But at the same time, you also have to be prudent. You also have to be responsible with the funding that you get. This is not an attack on any particular HBCU. I'm just speaking in general. Okay. Right. You also have to be fiscally responsible with the funding that you get. And at the same time, alumni have to donate to their HBCUs as well, because a lot of the HBCUs talk about how alumni will come back home for the homecoming game, but they won't donate. They won't contribute financially like they should. Okay. Right. And when now Dr. Julian Malveaux, who is a past president of Spelman College, if I remember correctly, I think it was Spelman. Dr. Julian Malveaux, who's also on Roland Martin's show, she has talked about how when she was a president of an HBCU, and they would go to corporations, they would go to prospective donors, things like this for funding. One of the first questions that the donors would ask is, how much do your alumni donate each year? What percentage of your funding comes from your alumni? So it's a holistic approach to this. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that we have to value HBCUs and fund them like we fund other colleges. So what I mean by that is you only invest in what you value. Okay, you only invest in what you value. So we have to look at this holistically, as opposed to just from one perspective or just pointing at one entity.
I agree. Here's the part that's sitting with me.
Mm-hmm.
Once an HBCU gets the money, right? I remember that, for example, the ex-wife of Jeff Bezos, Mackenzie Bezos,
right?
She gave a lot of money to different HBCUs, one of them being Morgan State University in Baltimore, right?
Right.
And money that was no strings attached, like legitimately no strings attached. She was like, do what you want to do with it, right?
Right.
And, I remember the president, Dr. David Wilson, there talking about some of the things that they wanted to do, having a plan.
Mm-hmm.
What my concern is, that when we talk about getting money for these HBCUs, we can talk about that all day. Then the actual putting the money where it needs to go.
Right.
That's the part that we aren't privy to.
Yeah, being fiscally responsible. Yeah.
Right. Like we don't know what's in their budget. We don't know where.
So you're talking about transparency when it comes to the finances.
I'm talking, and that's what I'm saying. And that's exactly what I'm saying, Brother Michael. Like if it's about facility improvement, right?
Right.
Where is that in your line item? Which line item? Where is that in your budget? What's the priority? Is the priority to build the sports program? Is the priority to build, the science program? Or is it on facility? Because I know it's easy, because I know a lot of these schools are struggling to always keep their level of accreditations good and to make sure that they can continue to operate. But I'm talking about the actual facilities. This is a facility issue. There's no way in the world you didn't know that your dorm room didn't have mold the way it did. You mean to tell me not one student came to the administrative officials and said, hey, look, we got a problem in this dorm. I'm smelling something. I'm seeing rats and roaches. I'm seeing mold in certain places.
Which school are you referring to? Is that Howard?
Bethune-Cookman. I'm talking about Bethune-Cookman.
Oh, Bethune-Cookman. Okay.
Yeah.
Because Howard had a problem a year or two ago. Howard had a problem with that as well. Right.
Same thing.
And then the administration said, administration intimated, if I remember correctly, that it was they contracted out the repairing of the dorms and things like that. That was contracted out. And if I remember correctly, they said it was some type of issue with the vendor, with the contractor, etc. So once again, you have to have a holistic approach to this. And I would think also alumni should be holding the college accountable as well for transparency. Now, with a lot of these institutions, HBCUs and other universities that are non-for-profit institutions, I don't know this for certainty, but I would think they would have their annual report on their websites.
Right.
I'm not sure of their exact classification. I'm not sure if they are classified, if they're not for profit. I'm not sure if they're classified as a 501c3 or 501c4. I'm not sure on that, but I do know that for instance, for 501c3s, for nonprofit organizations, they have their annual report, which shows how they use their funding. they usually have that on their websites.
Right.
And they have to be transparent with that. And that's stipulated by federal law. 501c3 is the section of the IRS tax code that legal designation, that legal structure comes from. Okay.
Right. So to that point, like Damien Blissett, one of my culture crew members, he said, look, the facilities manager should be inspecting and seeing these problems.
Well, facility managers, expecting to see the problem, but are the facility managers responsible for fixing the problem? Do you have to get a vendor?
It falls under them, though, right? I mean,
see, a lot of times,
I'm not saying they personally have to fix the problem, even if they contract somebody.
They contract somebody,
right? If they contract somebody to make sure, the facilities managers just to simply make sure that the problem gets fixed.
Well, yeah, but see, so they have to initiate the call to the vendor for certain things, for certain things that need to be fixed. It also may be a situation where they have to get 3 bids, have to submit the quotes, and it may be someone above the facility manager that approves the repairs. And I'm inspecting. And let me just say quickly, I'm saying this is somebody that used to manage a company that was a general. I managed a company where we were general contractors, and also one where we were authorized vendors of a major property management company. Okay, so they would call for bids to have certain repairs done, and we would go out, inspect it, submit a quote, things of this nature. Okay, so it could be a situation like that.
But that's what I'm saying, Brother Michael, and I think we're saying the same thing. It's just, and you're talking about just the larger process of getting those things done. But my point is, that's your job. Like, even if it became like, you know, as a facilities manager, you're walking around the space and you're like, damn, students are saying, hey, Mr. Maintenance Man, we got mold. And you see, you visibly see mold. You bring that to the administration and say, look, we got to get them students out of there. We can't, or this is going to be a huge lawsuit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that level of involvement, like that. There's so many people that dropped the ball in the situation with the Bethune-Cookman.
Mm-hmm.
Keenan, let's show these pictures again, brother. If you could pull up the pictures. I want to show these pictures. And when you show these, this is not just like happened overnight. This is an ongoing problem. And I'm looking at the facilities manager. I'm looking at whoever they report to, whatever administrative person. I'm looking at the board, because there's no way in the world that you should be having mold this bad. Take a look at this, folks.
Right.
I mean,
damn. So I haven't done a lot of research on this topic, because I've been researching other topics. But did the facility, the information come out saying the facility manager did not let upper management know?
That's a good question.
Yeah. So that's why, because depending upon what needs to be done, there may need to be a contractor that has to be authorized to actually do the job and be funded. So that may be above the facility manager. The facility manager may raise hell, but they may not have the authority to pay that person to authorize that work to be done. I don't know.
Guess what? They need to be fired too.
Who? The person above the facility manager? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'm speaking to somebody that managed companies, that had contracts, did work, clean out apartment buildings, things like this. So you may have the manager who raises hell, but the manager can't authorize the funding to actually do that job. You see what I'm saying? So it's somebody. So it may be somebody above the facility manager who really needs to be fired, and the facility manager may have been raising hell trying to get the work done. I don't know.
And see, but and as a person, like you said, that have managed and worked in that space, you report everything. There's always a paper trail, right? Or an email thread, right? You mean to tell me that something of that magnitude, you're not reporting it, you're not writing about it, you're not having meetings about it? I mean, this stuff is on a student's pillow.
Right.
So what does that mean? That means that the walls itself, like damn near the whole place is going to have to be fumigated and professionally cleaned and everything. And my only point is that if you got that level of negligence or that level of resistance to something that is that obvious, that in itself is a problem.
Right.
That is in itself is a huge, huge problem. And I think that speaks volumes about how Black folks treat the future. We say, oh, the future, that's how we treat the future. I mean, brother, it's so sad, man. It's so sad. And you know, like I said, I understand Ed Reed's passion. I understand his passion. I would be livid if my son came home and was like, Dad, this is the situation. I would be like, what? And I'm paying thousands of dollars for you to live on campus, and you can't even sleep in your bed because you got mold coming from somewhere? Oh, I'm raising hell. I'm raising Cain and Abel. You know what I'm saying? Like certain things are just unacceptable. And you know, the whole Black thing, man, please, that's no. Talk about Blackness when you treat each other better, when we treat each other better. It's unacceptable. It really is unacceptable. And it's sad that our students got to go through that, Brother Michael. That's the only point I'm making. Right. That's the ultimate point of that. It's really, really sad that our students are going through that. So, you know, again, I wanted to get your take, and I'm glad that you brought us into the conversation. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to have other discussion with Brother Michael, folks, and of course with you. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking to Brother Michael Imhotep, talking about the issues with HBCUs, but we want to put that topic on pause just for a moment, folks. And again, you can tune into BSN here, where we're going to provide continuous coverage about the situation down at Bethune-Cookman College, Ed Reed, and so much more as it relates to HBCUs. This is our problem, and we're going to have those conversations right here on The Culture, RMU, and other shows here on Black Star Network. So stay tuned for that. But I do want to shift gears, another big conversation that people are having. And Brother Michael, I'm so happy that you're able to join us to talk about this other part, which is the situation that we're seeing down here in Florida, with the Governor Ron DeSantis continues to fight against history, making it very clear that he doesn't want certain content about Black history to be taught in advanced placement classes in classrooms in schools throughout the state of Florida. One of the big elements of this is there's a number of topics that these classes would cover, and the classes come under what they call movements and debates. This is the curriculum where they talk about everything from Black Lives Matter to other topics. But let me share with you what was reported, and then, of course, Brother Michael, get your take on this to discuss the impact of all of this. But CBS reported that this latest move by the governor to restrict Black history from being taught in schools, advanced placement classes in the schools of Florida. The one-page document prepared by the Florida Department of Education, take a look at this, folks, also questions the inclusion of certain Black authors and historians. Inclusion of certain Black authors and historians. And Keenan, when you get a chance, I want you to post this quote, this first quote from CBS News, and how they are looking at this whole situation. The inclusion of certain Black authors and historians whose writings touch on critical race theory and Black communism. There we go. Thank you, bro. For example, I'm going to start right there in the middle of it, where it says, for example, folks, the state objects to the inclusion of writings by Robin D.G. Kelly, a professor of American history at UCLA, who, quote, warns that simply establishing safe spaces and renaming campus buildings does nothing to overthrow capitalism, according to the document. The state also said the course framework for the study of reparations, the argument to compensate Black Americans for slavery and other historical atrocities and oppressive acts, includes, quote, no critical perspective or balancing opinion in this lesson. All points and resources in the study advocate for reparations, the document said. Now, the state based its assertions of the course on an 81-page syllabus from February 2022. According to the list of concerns, their objections cover 6 topics of study, all in the 4th and final unit, when students study movements and debates. I want to share with you what Governor Ron DeSantis said at a press conference that came up yesterday. Take a look at this, folks. At a press conference yesterday, Governor DeSantis claimed that because of inclusions such as, quote, queer theory and prison abolition, the course was pushing a political agenda, stating, quote, this course on Black history, what's one of the lessons about? Queer theory. Now, who would say that an important part of Black history is queer theory? That is somebody pushing an agenda on our kids. And so when you look to see they have stuff about intersectionality, abolishing prisons, that's a political agenda. It's a lot to take in on this, Brother Michael, but I'm happy that you are here to kind of break this down. First and foremost, this piece about reparations, the governor doesn't want to have a conversation about reparations in the classrooms. What's your take on that?
Well, a lot of white people don't want to have a conversation about reparations, tell you the truth. Okay, whether it's in the classroom, outside the classroom, what have you. So let me just back up. The reason why I wanted to talk about this topic here is this is a follow-up to our discussion on Thursday, January 19th, 2023 here on your show. And then we discussed this topic last Thursday when I was on. Then the next day on Friday, January 20th, the Florida Department of Education released their 6 objections. They released this one-pager, 6 objections to the content. Now, it's important for people to understand there are 100 topics covered in this advanced placement African American history course. They objected to 6 topics out of 100. Okay. And because of their objection, they are banning this AP advanced placement African American history course from being taught in any high school in Florida. Now, according to National Public Radio, the article that NPR had entitled Florida Says AP Class Teaches Critical Race Theory, here's what's really in the course. At least one high school in Florida was scheduled to have this course taught. Okay, at least one high school in Florida. So this once again, and then also yesterday, Monday, January 23rd, Ron DeSantis spoke for the first time publicly on this topic. Okay, right. So if we look at some of the objections now, when he talks about Black queer theory, All right, and in their objection, it says they objected to readings from like Roderick Ferguson, who exclaims, "quote We have to encourage and develop practices whereby queerness isn't a surrender to the status quos of race, class, gender, and sexuality. It means building forms of queerness that reject the given realities of the government and the market." End quote. So I don't. It can't be left up to white people to determine what's in an African American advanced placement African American history course.
Mm-hmm.
When he says, "I don't think Black queerness has something to do with Black history," or however he put it, you're not in a position to even to determine that, because you don't even understand African American history. I guarantee you, he does not understand African American history.
Well, he don't want to understand either.
Well, no, he doesn't want to understand. Secondly, this was a group of African American scholars and historians who put together this course, including our own Dr. Greg Carr, who is a panelist on Roland Martin Unfiltered and the chair of the Afro-American Studies Department at Howard University, including Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. as well, who I do have some issues with, but he does do good research. I've read 2 of his books. So this was not, and this is designed to really teach history from, I would argue, from the African-American perspective, and look at different aspects of African-American history. They also had a problem with topic 4.31, Black study and the Black struggle in the 21st century. Black study and Black struggle in the 21st century. Then they had a problem with reparations. They said all points and resources in the study advocate for reparations. There is no critical perspective or balancing option in this lesson. Okay. So if you want to have, now let me just say this as a historian, when we deal with things, say like the Civil War, I don't just teach it I don't just deal with the perspective of the Union. I don't just deal with the perspective of African people fighting for their freedom and taking up arms, fighting for their freedom. I also look at the perspective of the traitors to the Union, the Confederacy, and their statements of succession. Okay, because in their statements of succession, like Mississippi and Texas and Georgia, they stated how slavery was essential to their way of life and essential to the wealth that they created. Right. And they took up arms to maintain slavery. So incorporating the perspectives of different groups involved in a movement or a struggle or a war, I don't have a problem with that. Okay. But when it's strange when you say that there is no critical perspective or balancing opinion in this lesson. All right. So now the other thing is that I wanted to be clear that Manny Diaz Jr., who is the Secretary of Education for Florida, as well as Ron DeSantis, they did both say that Black history is taught in Florida schools, and they actually said it's mandatory to be taught in Florida schools. Now, I don't know if it's a separate class that's taught. Okay, Ron DeSantis said he feels that Black history is a part of American history, but they did say it is taught in the schools. I don't know to what degree it's taught. Okay, but this course right here is the first of its type to be an advanced placement course where high school students can actually get college credit for taking this African-American history course. And it really teaches history from the African-American perspective. And it deals with all different perspectives when it comes to African-American history, all different perspectives of, say, the African-American community when it comes to our history.
Right. So, so the point that I think that should be noted that you brought up is that they have no real reference, no context right there to determine whether something should be allowed or not allowed. My question is, and I think this is a huge concern for a lot of people, which is, are we getting to that point where government officials are able to piecemeal their courses or piecemeal a school's curriculum to fit their agenda? It's so interesting that Governor DeSantis is talking about an agenda of queer theory and other folks, but that's exactly what you're doing. You're working from your political agenda when you're trying to piecemeal what information you deem will keep Black folks servile.
Right.
Or what information that you deem to keep Black folks in a state of submission versus information that will enlighten and empower Black folks to think critically.
Right. And I mean, you know, you talk about Bayard Rustin, who helped organize the March on Washington.
Right.
He was gay. You talk about James Baldwin, one of the most prolific writers in African American history. Absolutely. He was gay as well. So
I think we could talk about Langston Hughes.
Langston Hughes also, Harlem Renaissance, right. Langston Hughes. So this is somebody who DeSantis clearly does not understand our history at all. Okay, and to include their writings or say we should read their writings or something like that is not pushing an agenda or is not pushing a LGBTQ agenda or anything like that. These are significant people in African American history. Okay, now another objection they had was to Black Lives Matter movement or Movement for Black Lives. And they said Movement for Black Lives is an organization with stated objectives that include eliminating prisons and jails, ending pretrial detention, and concluding, quote, the war on Black, trans, queer, gender, nonconforming, and intersex people, end quote. When you have just because you teach about a particular organization's message or philosophy, it does not mean that you're trying to indoctrinate people to think that way. They're part of history.
Right,
okay?
right.
Okay. When we teach about World War II, okay, and we're dealing with World War II this week and next week in one of my classes, right? We deal with not the Nazi Germany, Nazi Socialist Party, the rise of Adolf Hitler, World War II starting September 1939 when Hitler invades Poland. Okay, because you teach about the Nazis and the Germans thinking that they are a master race and sterilizing Afro-Germans and things like this, because that's part of what triggers World War II. That's part of World War II. Because you talk about that perspective does not mean you're trying to push that agenda. It means that you're dealing with different sides of those involved in the war to understand what actually happened. Okay. And we learn about things like this. We learn about atrocities to make sure they don't happen again. So we learn the lessons from them also. Okay. So once again, this is why I warned African Americans in Florida that you need to vote for Andrew Gillum. Okay. Elections have consequences. And when you put crazy people like this in power, this is way too much power for crazy people to have, especially those that don't understand history.
Well, here's the other part about this, and then we're going to take a pause. But here's the other part about this, Brother Michael, that some Black folks will listen to this conversation and say, well, look, I don't think that I think Ron DeSantis might have a point, especially around the issue of queer theory, that might be dropping some seed in my child's mind. And we do know that there are Black folks that vote just based on one issue, or they stand in support of somebody because of one particular issue that they and that other person may be in agreement about. So how do we handle that a situation like that? Because yeah, I get it. You know, some folks don't want to learn about Black queer theory. They don't want to learn about the idea of some of us, knowing that James Baldwin and Langston Hughes were a part of the LGBTQIA community is mind blowing, right?
Right.
But they might just be like, well, yeah, he got a point. Therefore, I think we should not go that far.
So what about people who are against infidelity and cheating on their wives? Does that mean we don't teach about Dr. King because Dr. King cheated on Coretta? I mean, come on. So we have to understand that all this is part of history. Okay. I mean, we can make the same argument about misogyny. So we don't teach about misogynists. We don't teach about people like William Monroe Trotter because he was a sexist and think that women did not belong in our organizations, did not belong in the movement. Then that means you don't teach about Dr. King because Dr. King was a sexist as well, because Dr. King did not believe that women belong in leadership positions, permanent leadership positions. And this is why Ella Baker left Southern Christian Leadership Conference that she co-founded with Dr. King in 1957 because she was passed over for a permanent leadership position. So people see, we keep trying to find perfect people, perfect heroes in history. They don't exist. They all have flaws. They all have flaws. Okay. So we have to get over this nonsense. Okay. Because if we really start talking about it and start pointing fingers, you don't want to talk about people who cheated on their wives. You don't want to talk about people that cheat on their husbands. Do we not talk about people that use drugs and were strung out? Okay. Or do we just say, oh, we only have standards when it comes to gay people, but you can do all this other stuff as long as you're heterosexual? It's stupid.
We got to take a quick pause there. I want to take a pause there. Now, when we come forward, Brother Michael, let's talk about, the alternative to what we're seeing coming from Governor DeSantis. Sandy checked in on our culture crew. Sandy, she said that, we need to start preparing, maybe start really establishing these freedom schools, because this philosophy that we're seeing coming out of Florida is going into other states. So I want to get your take on that. Like, should we start really, and I mean really, investing in freedom schools? We can't do we may not be at the position of a full-blown school system, school district, but we can start creating smaller educational experiences within the church, coming from a home, coming from a community center, this may be the alternative. So I want to get your take on that. So folks, stay with us. We still got a lot of conversation left as we check in with our brother Michael Imhotep, as we talk about this issue happening in Florida around advanced placement classes and the rejected ideas of reparations, queer theory, and so much more as part of Black history. We want to hear from you. Make sure you join us in the chat, post your comments, and we'll do our best to share what you have to say. So stay with us. A lot more conversation right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys. This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been checking in with Brother Michael Imhotep as we talk about AP classes, African-American studies in the schools and classrooms of Florida, and how Governor Ron DeSantis still is on the other side of fighting history, folks, from being taught. All right, let me bring my brother back into the frame here. And Brother Michael, I wanted to kind of get your take on something that one of our online culture crew members had brought up, which is this idea of freedom schools. Sandy, I think it was you, where you talked about, let's start to establish these freedom schools before this philosophy that Governor DeSantis is proposing starts to infect other states. Now, there are other states that are pushing on this. We reported on this last week. There was the state of Missouri that was looking to kind of limit what's being taught about Black history. So, but what's your take on this idea, Brother Michael? Freedom schools, is this the alternative that we would need in order to get from under this level of scrutiny of our history?
Well, freedom schools are something that we've had throughout history. Freedom schools are not something new. Okay. We have freedom schools during the civil rights movement, and these are, you have various types of freedom schools, but these are independent schools that we have, or it could be a independent after school program where we would teach African-American history to our children. Okay. And to adults also, because unfortunately, many of our adults don't understand our history. That's needed regardless. That's needed regardless of whether it's taught in the schools or not. Because when you look at the Jewish community, they have like cultural schools where they teach their culture, maybe on the weekend or something like that. So we need that. That's not an alternative to it being taught in the schools or a advanced placement African-American history course. The reason why it's not an alternative is because African-American history needs to be in every school across the country, regardless of the race of those students. Mm-hmm. Everybody needs to learn our history. The reason why is because the way you treat a people is largely based upon what you know about a people. What you know about a people is what you've been taught about a people. What you've been taught about a people is what you've read, seen, and heard about a people. So when we deal with the laws that are constructed in this country, they're constructed by politicians, okay? Their level of understanding of history influences the policies that they put in place. When we deal with policing, we deal with judges, prosecuting attorneys, when we deal with doctors, when we deal with all the racial discrepancies in this country, okay? This comes from human beings enacting policies. The way they see us largely is based upon what they know about us. So having freedom schools is not an alternative to our history being taught in schools. Okay, we need to do that regardless of whether it's taught in schools or not. The other thing is that if you have to take a mandatory American history class to get a diploma from a school, to graduate from high school, so you can go on to college, so you can go in the military, so you can gain employment, but you don't have it, but it's not mandatory to take an African-American history course, then what you're doing tacitly is you're elevating one people's history and saying this history is more important. It's mandatory that you learn this or you can't graduate. But this other people's history over here is not mandatory for you to know about their history. You then tacitly elevate one people who the history is about, and you denigrate or diminish the importance of the other people who the history is about. So this is much deeper. Yes, we should have freedom schools, regardless.
Right.
But that is not an alternative to having our history taught in every school across the country. And this is one of the things that Dr. Carter G. Woodson advocated for, who was the co-founder of the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History and the creator of Black History Month.
So we just need to cover down in both spaces.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That makes sense.
You definitely have to do that. And other people realize why it's important for their history to be taught in these schools also. They realize it.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that point up too, Brother Michael. And again, Sandy, I appreciate your idea and for us to have this conversation. But I appreciate the fact that you said other people, because what we're seeing in this country is that what has been affecting Black people really affect all other people, right? I mean, yes. Even though we're not the majority in America, but it is our struggle, our pain that dictates the agenda of how other communities, other groups of people move forward. So how do you see the state of Florida and other states who may be trying to adopt this philosophy of with fighting against history? I mean, you got a growing number of Latinos in this, especially down in Florida.
Well, 19% of the population, right. They're close to Cuba, Florida.
Right, Cuba, right, exactly. Right. I was going to tell you, we could talk about our brothers and sisters from Haiti.
Yes.
We could talk about the Asian American community, right? You got a growing number of folks. So now the question becomes is like, how does that the state of Florida or any state that may adopt this philosophy, how are they going to stop not teaching about the history of those other people? Like, yeah, okay, you say we don't want to talk about Black history, but now you got all these other groups of people that are in the picture, that are in the fold. And so now how are you going to make education relatable to their people, to those group of people as well? How do you foresee that playing out?
Well, once again, I just want to reiterate, in the state of Florida, based upon statements from Governor Ron DeSantis as well as Secretary of Education Manny Diaz, Black history is incorporated into their history classes. Okay, right. I just want to state this. I don't know to what extent, haven't had a chance to review it, but they do say they do teach it. When it comes to other groups having their history taught as well, a lot of them are in a better position to get their history taught because they know more about their history generally than we do. Okay. And this is important to understand. See, nobody else went through 246 years of slavery, decades of Jim Crow segregation, redlining, and were put into an institution that stripped them largely of their history, culture, language, spiritual systems, names, family ties, nationality, etc. Even though other people, the Chinese, have experienced oppression, they have experienced discrimination, oppression in this country. Nothing like us. They had the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, and different things like this. But they've largely been able to maintain their culture, language, names, etc. Okay, so they're in a better position to be able to push to have advanced placement courses, dealing with Asian American history or whatever it is. It's the same thing with Latinos. Okay, they've been able to largely, to a greater degree, maintain their culture, whereas with us, and the other thing is the power dynamic, right? This country was, say, early on, prior to 1865, was heavily based upon the enslavement of African people, the 262 skills, trades, and crafts that African people had in this country, and the wealth that African people generated for this country, whether it's in textile mills, production of cotton, tobacco, rice, things like this. It was heavily dependent upon us, more so than any other ethnic group in this country. Okay. So you didn't have a civil war in this country because of Asian Americans,
right?
Or because of Latinos or things like that. You had a civil war because the South wanted to maintain slavery. Okay. So the whole power dynamic is different when it comes to talking about us as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We got a couple of moments left, and Brother Michael, it's going to be interesting to see how this thing continues to play out.
Well, lawsuit has already been filed dealing with the Stop Woke Act, so that's going to play out in court. And part of that law being implemented has already been blocked in court, also.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know you like to talk about some of the work that you're doing to deprogram us. So talk to us about the work of the African History Network. What you got moving?
Well, we had a great class last Saturday. This Saturday, January 28th, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., we have another free class session of our 16-week online class, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, where they didn't teach you in school. Scroll up. We have I put the information towards the top of the page. Right there. 16-week online course. So you can register for our free class session. You can register for the entire course also. It's on sale $60, regularly $130. Even after the class is over with, you'll still have full access to the course. And then on Wednesday, this week on Wednesday, January 25th, we'll do another session of From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1800 to 1968, where we look at that 168 period of history, understand what led to the Civil War taking place, and then look at Reconstruction, Jim Crow era, Great Migration, World War I, World War II, Civil Rights Movement, and Black Power movement. We'll focus on the Red Summer of 1919 on Wednesday, where you had over 25 major race riots in this country. And we'll also talk some about Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association as well.
There it is right there, folks. Get all
so visit theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com.
There it is. And folks, you can check out Brother Michael here on the Culture Weekly. And we're always happy to have our Brother Michael Imhotep. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being
so good. All right, thanks,
Farajii.
All right, peace.
Peace, brother. Folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you. First and foremost, folks, make sure y'all do your due diligence. Check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. We are building the powerhouse media platform. That's right, blackstarnetwork.com. You can check out our website. You can see all of the latest, the past shows that we have done, special interviews that Brother Roland has done, and other events and activities that have been shaping this country, especially about conversations and issues that we talk about often on the show. So make sure you go to blackstarnetwork.com, do your due diligence. We definitely need your support. So your financial support means everything to us, everything. We need your support. And also let folks know that that they can download the app for free. And of course, you can follow us on social media at Black Star Network on IG and Twitter. Now, the other thing is that you can go to our website. And of course, we are also streaming now on Amazon. So you can just tell your Fire Stick, Alexa, play news from Black Star Network. And guess what? Boom, we come right up as part of the Amazon News lineup. So make sure that if you have a Fire TV, that you tune into the Culture, Roland Martin Unfiltered, the Black's Table, and so many more of the dynamic programming here on Black Star Network. You can now view it on Amazon Fire Stick TV. So that is happening right now. Big shout out to my team, King Keenan, my producer, Joel, and of course, our control room. Make sure y'all stay tuned because up next in about an hour, we have Roland Martin Unfiltered streaming live here on Black Star Network and on Amazon. So we definitely want you to keep the conversation going and be a part of that discussion as well. As always, folks, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you to my online culture crew for the dynamic comments. And of course, we will continue to keep our eyes on this situation down in Florida with Bethune-Cookman, with Ed Reed, and so much more. The conversation about the state of HBCUs will continue on this show. So trust and believe that was just one part of many discussions that we will have because we got to get our HBCUs up and back and ready to receive our students and most importantly, inspire love. So that conversation will continue. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. Make sure y'all follow me on all my social media platforms at The Real Farajii on Instagram and Farajii on Twitter. I love to build with you and build community there with you. And I look forward to connecting with you, God willing, tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network and, of course, streaming live on Amazon News. Talk to you soon. Peace.